Bismillah walhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala, amma ba'd. We continue with Iqtidaa-ul Ilm al Amal Al-Khateeb Al-Baghdaadee rahimahullah and yarhamukallah. You want a dua for him so he got jealous? Yeah, we'll make dua for you too. There's not much of the book left, and whenever we get through any book, it's very important to always go back to the point of the book. Initially, what's the point of the book? To do what? Etiquette of seeking knowledge. Mainly what? What from the etiquette?
Implementing what you learn.
To implement what you learn. To implement what you learn. This is, the whole book is going around. The whole point of your knowledge is for you to implement actions from it. This is what the whole book is talking about. So it's very important as we're going through for a person to assist himself. One of the statements from the ulama, I can't remember the exact statement, but one of the advices of his mother was, whenever you write 10 letters, look and ask yourself, did it improve you or did it not? If it improve you, then it means, alhamdulillah, you're benefiting from your knowledge. If even 10 letters, even 10 letters, it hasn't improved you, then no, that is an issue. But I'm paraphrasing. I mean, this is very important. We've gone through over half the book. We've read over 100 statements of the ulama and a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. Either authentic or the meaning is correct. Very important that we ask ourselves, what have I learned so far? What have I changed so far? We do not want to be, brothers, we do not want to be someone that reads a book about implementing knowledge and still at the end of it, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, you're studying the book, you're still the same person. This is not what we want to be. And as we mentioned, it's extremely important that our religion is holistic. Our religion is holistic. We are people that take every aspect of our religion seriously to the best of our ability. We don't want to pick and choose. We don't want to pick and choose. We don't want to be religious in one field, but then very bad in another field. We don't want our ibadah to be excellent, but our akhlaq to be bad. Or our akhlaq to be excellent, but our ibadah wrong. We don't want to be these people. We want to be people that learn and do our best to implement absolutely everything and seek forgiveness for that which you have shortcomings in. Bismillah, ibda ya Abdul Rahman.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Amma ba'd. The dislike of seeking hadith in order to boast, hold gatherings or gain followers and the companions through narration. Number 125. From
A'idullah.
That he said, the one who follows after the hadith in order to just narrate it to others and not to act on it will not smell the fragrance of paradise.
No, this is very important. Again, all of it goes back to the intention that the person has. The one who follows after the hadith in order to just narrate it to others and not act upon it will not smell the fragrance of paradise. This is again not a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. He's not saying it's hadith, he's mentioning it as a severe warning. That the one who is learning the knowledge for other than the sake of ilm, he wants to become famous, he wants to become well known, and for him, this is an easy route. Different people see a different route in achieving fame. Some will want to become actors, some will become singers, some will try and be any comedians online. Some people will look and say, I'm attracted to what the scholars get. People like them, people respect them, people will hold them in high esteem, people move out of the way for them when they're walking, people point at them, etc., etc., etc. When there's an issue, they get caught up. So maybe he likes that aspect. Some people like the money, some people like the modeling, some people like the likes online, some people like that aspect. So say, you know what, I want to do that. I want to be that person. And so the reason that they study, the reason that they learn is to achieve that. That person, all of his efforts are insincere. All of his efforts are insincere. And so, ayadhan billah, what is expected for such a person is everything except paradise, wallahu musta'an. So very important to ensure that the intention is correct from the beginning. Continue.
Number 126. Khalid bin al-Harith al-Hujaymi said that it was said to Ibn Shabrama, narrate to us and you will be rewarded for is. So he began to say, They expect that I will receive an immense reward. Yet I wish that I would be saved by just enough to get by, which is neither against me nor for me.
This is something similar to what we've gone past before, that this is from the humility of the ulama. From the humility of the ulama, even though they've done so good, they've done so much. But they're saying, even if I just pass, and this is also statements of people like Umar radiallahu anhu, that you are who you are, they would reply back, even if I just pass the test, I'm happy. Because that's the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is for you to get to Jannah. And that happens by you just passing the test. So saying, even if I just pass this, I'll be happy. Don't worry about everything that I've gathered. Inshallah, I've memorized 1,000,000 ahadith. I'm not worried about the 1,000,000 ahadith if I haven't passed the test. So even if I've just passed the test, I'm happy. Obviously, they're hoping for much more than that. And Allah Azza tells us about the people that received their book in their right hand. They were expecting that they get their book in their right hand. They were hoping that they get their book in their right hand. They were doing good deeds for them to achieve paradise. That's why they do what they do. But out of their humility, they say, even if I would just pass, I'll be happy with that. Continue.
Number 127. Abu Mash'ar Abdul A'la bin Mash'ar or Mash'ar.
I have Mashar with a sin. In the Arabic, the sin, Mashar.
Mashar narrated to us saying, one day the students of Hadeeth set out early to go and see Al-Awza'i. So he turned towards them and said, how many dedicated students of knowledge there are, seeking to gather it and desirous of obtaining it. Yet they do not gain benefit from it.
Again, continue, sorry.
Nor do they give benefit out to others.
Again, all of it goes back around the benefit. All of it goes back to the benefit, that you are benefiting and then you benefit others. If a person comes and he listens to Allah Barik and he sits in the majalis of the mashaykh and the ulama, but then he leaves at the end of it without any benefit. Why were you there? What was your intention in coming? Again, in circles like ours, you don't see it as much. You don't see it as much. Because for people to come to the masjid in Australia, usually the barakah is already achievement in itself. Then to sit in the lessons of the mashayikh, again, is another achievement. Then to sit in the boring lessons, where it's not talking about jihad and qital and this war and that war and the munafiqeen and kufr bit taghut, kaman is another achievement. So you don't see it as much. But this is usually in places where you find the people I hold in high esteem, or it's cool for whatever reason to go. There are some mashaykh overseas, Allahumma barik, they're extremely popular, to the extent that if you were to pray inside the masjid will be massive. But if you prayed inside the masjid when he's on that night, or he's given khutbah there, that's an achievement in and of itself. To pray in the masjid. There are people you have to pray outside. There are some of the ulama, when I was in Egypt, for example, some of the very popular mashayikh that would announce where they're going to give a khutbah. You had to be there from Fajr in order for you to pray in the masjid. And the masjid is massive. You have to be there at Fajr and stay all the way to Jum'ah in order for you to stay in the masjid. Otherwise you're staying outside. Then sometimes, and these are on some of the videos I saw on YouTube, they'll be leaving, the shaykh will be trying to leave. Sometimes they'll actually surround the car, they can't even leave. Because people just want to shake their hand or kiss their hand, etc. Extremely popular. The one that went with the intention to learn, hani'an lahu. The ones that went because it was like an attraction, or it was cool, or his friends were going. So he went. He done the same actions as them. But unfortunately, if he didn't have the right intention, where he learned something, but he didn't implement it, this is a musibah. Now, other countries, a person, tabarakallah, he's a sheikh, and he's fulan, and he's memorized X, Y, Z. So, yusharu lahu bil alam. People look at him and they say, this person's a scholar, and he knows so much, and anything you want from the religion, you go back to this person, he's like an encyclopedia. But that's what he wants out of it, then he's not benefiting. And unfortunately, again, we have a lot of those, not as much in Australia because we don't have a lot of streams of knowledge in the first place. But when you go overseas, you see this a lot more. This person goes because he wanted to study with this sheikh. So he can say he's my sheikh. But in terms of look at what he has, what he knows, unfortunately, what he implements, unfortunately, you reach disappointed the long time. Continue.
Number 128. I heard Al-Fudayl rahimahullah say, if you had requested dinars from me, it would have been easier on me than if you would have requested a hadith from me. So I said to him, if you would narrate to me by way of a hadith points of benefit that I am not aware of, that would be more beloved to me than if you were to give me the equivalent of that in dinars. He said, you are truly afflicted. By Allah, if only you would act upon what you heard from narrations, that would surely preoccupy you from what you have yet to hear. Then he said, I heard Sulaiman bin Mihran say, if you had food in front of you, which you were eating, and every time you took a piece from it, you threw it behind your back instead of your mouth, when would your hunger be satisfied?
This is very, very profound. In the statement, especially when you read in Arabic, it's very profound. If every time you had food in front of you, you were to throw it aside. Take one bite, you throw it aside. When are you ever going to be full? You're never going to be full. The point is, when it comes to your knowledge, why do people always want more? A lot of time because they haven't preoccupied themselves with that which they have in front of them already. Sometimes they'll have what they have from recommended deeds, from obligatory deeds, from things that are haram, and they haven't implemented them. And because they haven't implemented them, they're always on the search for more. Why? Because they haven't been satisfied. They haven't been satisfied. But when they focus on what they have already, if they were to focus just on what they have already, you'd see a major change in how quickly they want to seek knowledge. Because they understand, I need to take my time, it's a slow process. My grudge against that person, is it valid or not valid? That grudge that I have against that person, okay, it's not valid. What am I going to do about it now? Should I go and rectify the affairs with him? Pride comes. Nah, I'm not going to do it. Goodness to the person that cut off tie kinship with me. He done wrong by me. You know what? He can go and live his life. I'll live my life. But the Prophet ﷺ told you, the knot of kinship is not with the one that ties with you, but the one who cuts it. And did you do your part in trying to rectify it to be the better person? In terms of your connection with the Quran, in terms of your connection with the night prayers, in terms of your connection with your family, in terms of your connection with the masjid, in terms of your connection with the sunnah prayers, in terms of your connection with sadaqah. Have you done what you were meant to do? Have you worked on yourself in that regard? What you've read, what you've learned, have you implemented it? If yes, alhamdulillah, beautiful. Amazing. You're a person that's worthy of not just food, but the dessert as well. But a person who is always, and he wants to go from this system to this system, to that sheikh, and you find he's never satisfied. He just wants more, wants more, wants more. Not because he's learning and implementing and benefiting, but because he's not concerning himself with the implementation of what he's learning. His role is, what can I learn from information, points of benefit? As for the implementation, the practice of that, la. He's gone full steam ahead down a hill, and he's not thinking about the consequences. And this is what these narrations are talking about. Ones that want Allah, and the ulama are telling them, no. Worry about what you already have. Why? Because you haven't implemented it. We can tell that you haven't implemented it. And so if you truly want to be a student of knowledge, you want to be a seeker of knowledge, then make sure that you're implementing what you're reading, what you're learning. Continue.
Number 129. Ubaydullah bin Umar
Qawariri.
Qawadiri.
With a ra, and there's some of the copies say Qawadiri. No.
Qawadiri. This one says has a
At the end they say Qawadiri.
Qawadiri said, I saw the foster brother of Sufyan bin Uyayna come to Fudayl, that is for knowledge. So he, Fudayl, said to him, is there not sufficient evil in your home such that you had to come here?
What's he talking about here? What's he talking about here? Is there not sufficient evil in your house? كنت جاهزا؟ ما تجهزت؟ What's he talking about? That's a fitna, not sharp. Here he's using it طبعا as the way we speak now. You got to understand in context. The way we speak now would never refer to knowledge as evil. Would never refer to it as evil. But understanding in context is talking about knowledge. Do you not have enough evil in your house? You've got enough knowledge that you haven't implemented. What are you coming here for? You're worried about going left and right. And from the sunnah of the ulama is that you learn with the people in your village first, in your city first, and then you get out. Once the city, the village, the area becomes too small for you, then you worry about going out. Here he's saying, your brother's a alim. Sufyan ibn Uyayna, one of the big ulama in hadith, very well known. Your brother has enough, he called it evil. Again, us, as we're talking, would never use the word evil to describe knowledge. But he's referring to its consequences. That this knowledge that you have in abundance, Allah barik. Why are you worried about coming to me for knowledge? Your brother's a muhaddith. Go and sit with your brother and learn the ahadith and implement them. But the fact that you have all of that there, without its implementation, then its consequences are evil for you and not good. Continue.
Number 130. Khalid bin Khindash narrated to us, saying, Al-Fudayl said to me, will you go to Sufyan? I said yes. He said, what a great man he is, if only he weren't one of the people of Hadith.
These are again mubalaghat. These are exaggerations. Not that all of the people of Hadith are bad. This is very important so that no one misunderstands context. Some people, again, you have some of the Sufiya, for example. Some of the Sufiya, they'll take these types of quotes out of context and they'll say, even the ulama didn't like seeking knowledge. Why? Because it takes you away from ibadah. No, that's not the context of the scholars. And when we get to the end of the chapter, you will see, that's not the context of the scholars. They're talking about this is a dangerous game. And for the one that wants to take that path, though, the scholars will tell you, that's why they became scholars. There is nothing better than becoming a scholar. After the obligatory deeds, the only thing that maybe comes close is jihad. That's the thing that maybe comes close. And you have many that will say, no, seeking knowledge is even better than jihad fi sabilillah. Jayyid? The jihad defends one type of threat, which is a physical one. Which if a person was to be killed by the enemy, worst case he dies, and if he's oppressed he goes to Jannah. That's the worst case scenario. As for knowledge, then that battlefront is an even more honorable one, which is the defending of Islam itself. Which if a person is affected by doubts, it could lead him outside of the fold of Islam. He could be healthy, happy, eating, drinking, the best of food. But a doubt enters his heart, and it could lead him to be from the people of the disbelievers, which will be making from the people of the hellfire if he dies upon that. Who is there to defend that? A mujahid can't defend that. The one that are on those lines, on those borders, these are the ulama. So for a person to study the religion properly and then promote the religion, there is no one that comes close to him after the obligatory deeds. But what's extremely important is that student of knowledge that's learning, make sure that he implements. Otherwise, that information becomes a means of proof against him. It will be a means of proof against him. When he knows what to do and doesn't implement, it's an issue. So the Sufiya, sometimes they'll come to these statements, taking it out of context. How do you know the context? When you understand all of the statements in that chapter. When you get all of the statements of the ulama in that particular chapter, then you understand how they came to these conclusions and what they meant by those words. Yes, the scholars of hadith, these are amazing people, these are the best of the best. And scholars would say, if in terms of the Al-Firqat Al-Najiyah, the saved sect, the Prophet spoke about the misguided sects, and he spoke about the saved sect, the ulama would say, if it's not the people of hadith, then who is it? Because these are people that know the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ, and they walk in those footsteps. And the ulama that we are mentioning, these are great ulama of the sunnah. Great ulama of the sunnah that preserve the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and implement it. These are known for their ibadah, these ulama. They are known for their ibadah. But out of extra caution, and out of extra fear of Allah Azza wa Jal, and out of extra humility, they say statements like this, so that the student understands not to make any mistakes. They're not saying this to the layman. They're not getting up on the minbar and saying to the people, don't learn hadith. They're saying to students of knowledge, be careful, this person is a person of hadith. Or be careful of becoming a person of hadith. Not that, wallah, don't become a muhaddith. This is, again, one of the most honorable things that you can become. And the Prophet ﷺ himself praised the learning of a hadith and understanding it, implementing it, passing it on. The Prophet prays something, you're going to say it's bad? No. But don't be a person who, Allahumma barik, you've read 1,500 books. You've read 1,500 books of hadith, you've memorized 1,500 books of hadith, but you don't implement it. It's not just limited to hadith. Remember we said same about the Quran. We had the whole chapter about a person reading its letters but neglecting its rulings. It's not just about hadith, about any Islamic science. These are just certain statements about a certain matter. Understanding context. We had the statement of Hassan al-Basri rahimahullah, who spoke against the ones who recite the Quran but don't implement its meanings. They recite it and they perfect its recitation. We said this Quran is against them. Your mashallah, your recitation is amazing. Your memorization is amazing. Your voice is beautiful. But you don't implement it, ayyadan billah, this Quran is against you. If a person was to learn Quran or to learn hadith or to learn fiqh, you open up the chapters that talk about the fuqaha, you hear the same. The scholars talk against the ones that know all the difference of opinion, and a lot of people say, Allahumma barik wa alim. And you ask me a question, Sheikh, does this back my salah or not? And I sit there. The ulama differed. Imam Shafi'i said this in the Madhab al-Qadim and Madhab al-Jadid. And Imam Ahmed said this, and he's got 3 statements in it, and this is the Mukhtar in the Madhab. And the Ahnaf say this, but the 2 students of Abu Hanifa rahimahullah differed. Muhammad Shaybani said this, and Al-Qadi said this. And in the Maliki Madhab, Imam Malik rahimahullah said this. But then you also have the opinion of the Zahiriyya, and then the opinion of Ibn Taymiyyah, and I do tarjih of the opinion of Ibn Taymiyyah because of these evidences. People, Allahumma barik wa mashrin tabarak blah blah. Tayyib, was that in fiqh? It wasn't in hadith, it wasn't in Quran. Was that, if my intention was not sincere for the sake of Allah, was that beneficial? No, that wasn't beneficial. That which I had memorized and that which I said, because I wanted people to say Allahumma barik wa alim, that is against me. So again, we don't misunderstand the statements of the ulama. Whether it's to Sufiya, I'm not saying all of them are like this. Okay, not all of Sufiya. I've seen this also very common in Jamaat al-Tabligh. Also one of the things with Jamaat al-Tabligh is they purposely keep a lot of their people ignorant. Why? Because then they start questioning certain things. And they don't want that. Even, you almost find no group of people from Ahl al-Bid'ah except that they have this issue. I'm not saying Jamaat al-Tabligh Ahl al-Bid'ah. Again, no one misunderstand my words incorrectly. But I'm talking about in general. In general, they prefer to keep the people ignorant. Because of questioning. I had even one takfiri come up to me a long time ago. This is when certain groups were at their peak. And he came up to me like so sincerely. And he goes, Nassim, Wallah, I want good for you. Wallah, I want good for you. But I don't want the same thing to happen to you that happens to everyone else. Okay, what happens to everyone else? He goes, they start seeking knowledge and then they change. What do you mean? What do you mean they change? He goes, like they were staunch when they were before, and they start seeking knowledge, then they get soft. Okay, mad to him. Maybe what they're learning is that they were upon something incorrect, and now they learn something which is correct. This is haram is argument. You don't want to have that discussion. Now, خلاص, as long as you're ignorant, you can easily say this guy's a kafir, with no fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you actually think that you're doing something good. You actually think that you're doing something good. One of the brothers here, I remember, it was on Facebook. It was in the comment section. That's again, comment section, one of the, it's the jungle of stupidity. Don't bother. To show you the lack of fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but when a person is ignorant. You guys know mubahala? Mubahala, when you and another person differ, for you to have, to make the curse of Allah upon one of you. So you say, I'm telling the truth, and if I'm not telling the truth, then may the curse of Allah be upon me. Now, this is a big thing. What do you mean? You're calling upon the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be upon you. This is done with the disbelievers. Okay, maybe, no problem with the disbelievers. But between you and another person over the most stupidest of matters, we'll do mubahala. This is not done. This is not from the etiquette of the Sunnah. Ala kulli hal, one of them, he said, he was trying to istidlal with a certain sheikh. He's trying to say, this sheikh, I make takfir on this sheikh because this sheikh who's my sheikh also makes takfir on him. And the brother said, Habibi, that guy doesn't make takfir on him. And he goes, yeah, he does make takfir on him, and I'll do mubahala straight away. I'll do mubahala. That person's never met that sheikh in his life. The other brother is related to him. He's related to him. But to show you the ignorance, because there's no fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There was no fear, there was no glorification, there was no honoring. There was none of that. Why? Because of ignorance. That person will give you the copy-paste the statements of ulama regarding takfir, etc., etc., etc. This statement, Ibn Taymiyyah said this, Ibn Taymiyyah said that, Muhammad Abdul Wahab said this. And it leads them to that arrogance, it leads them to that wrong. They know a little bit, they haven't implemented or they've understood things incorrectly, out of context. Like the one who wants to understand that statement. Out of context, they think, no, you know what? What's the point of seeking knowledge? Let me be a abid. Let me just worship. I'll be an excellent Muslim and I won't seek knowledge. No. You have to understand things in context. In context. Anyways, that brother said, I just called him up and I spoke to him and he said that he never made takfir on that sheikh. Taban, that brother looked very silly, he had egg on his face. But it just shows you where this very easily leads to. Okay, very easily leads to when one, a person doesn't take things in context. Number two, where this ignorance leads a person to. Now, a person needs to seek knowledge and ensure that he implements it. And you see a lot of things change when a person does. Continue.
Number 131. Sawar bin Abdullah narrated to us saying, I heard Sufyan bin Uyayna say, if I was to be asked why I sought knowledge of the hadith, I don't know what I would say.
Again, we spoke about this before. This is from the humility of the scholars. Of course he knows. Why does a person seek knowledge of hadith? Why? To get closer to Allah Azza wa Jalla, how?
By implementing that knowledge.
Implementing that knowledge. To learn what the Prophet ﷺ done, to implement it. So I don't think that Sufyan ibn Uyayna, one of the biggest scholars of the Salaf, doesn't know, doesn't understand. But he's questioning his intention. Like this is out of humility. Okay, and out of fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not, wallah, say even he's a scholar, he's a big scholar, he wishes he never saw hadith. No, don't misunderstand Allah musta'an. Continue.
Number 132. Al-Ghilabi narrated to us saying, a man once asked Sufyan bin Uyayna about the chain of narration of a hadith. So he said, what will you do to its chain of narration? As for you, then the wisdom in it, that is the hadith, has already been conveyed to you. And now the exhortation in it is what is binding on you.
Now, I mean, some people, they ask certain questions that don't have benefit. Okay, don't have benefit. Like when the men asked the Prophet ﷺ, when is the hour? Mata sa'a. What was the reply of the Prophet ﷺ? ماذا أعددت للساعة? What have you prepared for the hour? Yani, if you're asking about the isnad, this, I don't know who it was, but there was one gathering where the person wanted to mention something in the isnad. And I remember, like, why we're not in a majlis of hadith. We're not in a majlis of hadith. It felt, Allah knows what his intention was, but it felt like he wanted to show the sheikh that he's memorized the isnad of the narration. And he wanted to ask about this particular narrator. Yani, the ilm al-rijal, this is extremely precise science. Very, very, very precise science. So it's almost impossible, not almost impossible, it's very rare for you to go ask a sheikh about the isnad and he know everyone in that isnad and whether they're authentic or not authentic, etc. Why? Because it's a science that, not that it's not needed today, but it's very easy. It's a science that's finished. You go back to the books if you need it, pick up the books, they've already got tahqiq for you. Is it authentic? Is it weak? And why? It's already done. Now, in terms of the Salaf, they have to be very strict with this in order for them to know whether the narration is authentic or not. Like we said, remember in this book, he said, why is there a lot of weak narrations? The scholars, they say, as long as the isnad is written, then the scholar's done his job. Why? Because the other scholars of hadith, they have the ability to look at it and know is the chain of narration authentic or not. They have the ability. Now, we don't have the ability, but we have down the bottom, authentic or not authentic, by scholars that we trust. So anyways, this particular brother was sitting there and I said to myself, all I want to do is ask him a question. Give me any other hadith that you want, any other hadith with the chain of narration. Just give me anything. Because I said, the way that, again, Allah knows what his intention was. But the way that it came across was, the person is trying to show off, and look, I've memorized the hadith, and he wants a sheikh to say something so that he can come back and smash him for something else. Don't have that intention. Don't be like that. What you want is the narration itself. This is the majlis, you want the narration. Did you take the benefit out of the narration or not? That's what you're going to be questioned about. The benefit that he took out of the narration. Did he implement it, yes or no? As for getting into any certain matters and certain details in order to show you, improve yourself, Allahumma barik, that you've memorized that particular chapter of narration, then this is an issue, Allah understand. Again, it's not as common in Australia because we don't have that caliber of students of knowledge. But when you go overseas in certain circles, you start to see this a little bit more. What you do get is at times, someone may want to come and check how Salafi you are. So he'll bring a quote of Ibn Taymiyyah and he'll say, did you know Ibn Taymiyyah said this in Majmu' al-Fatawa? And then he's never read anything, not one book of Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, not one treatise of Ibn Taymiyyah, nothing. But he remembers that quote. Why? Because they assist him in takfir, or assist him in this, or assist him in that. Okay, have you looked at it in context of anything else? La. But he wants to use that as a means of leverage and getting one over you. Okay, or with Muhammad Abdul Wahhab, or one of the children or students of Muhammad Abdul Wahhab, rahimahullah, and they try and use that. Look at it in context and make sure you've taken the benefit out of it, as opposed to trying to use it as a weapon against others. Continue.
Number 133. Abu Zayd Umar bin Shu'bah narrated to us saying, Khalad bin Yazid al-Arqat, and whenever Abu Zayd would mention Khalad, he would describe him as being prestigious and noble, and he would say that he was from the firm mountains in terms of nobility. Narrated to me saying, I came to Sufyan bin Uyayna, so he said to me, indeed it is only ignorance that has brought you here, not your desire for seeking knowledge. If your neighbors would limit themselves to just your knowledge, it would be sufficient for them. Then he gathered a pile of dirt and divided it in half with his finger, and said, this is knowledge, you have acquired half of it. Now you are seeking after the other half. So if it were to be said to you, have you used what you have acquired? If you were truthful and responded, no, it would then be said to you, what then is your need for that which will increase you in burden upon burden? Use what we have acquired first.
No. Again, this is إِنَّمَا يَأْتِي بِكَ الْجَهْلِ. He says, again, making it clear, the context. Ignorance has brought you here. لَابْتِغَاءُ الْعِلْمِ. Not the love of knowledge. You're not coming for knowledge that you're going to implement. You come from an ignorant reason, which is you just want to gather more knowledge. Now, again, this is understood in context. Sometimes, even brothers, they may ask me questions and I'll say, I'm not going to answer you. I'm not going to answer you because I know why you're asking. You want to go and you want to debate this person, or you want to go and comment back on this person. I'm not going to answer you because that's not what you're meant to do as a student of knowledge. So again, understand the all in context. Continue.
Number 134. Ibn Hammad narrated to me saying, I asked Sufyan bin Uyayna, or someone else asked him, who is the scholar? He replied, the one who gives every hadith its due right, that is from action.
No. This is who the scholar is. Not saying don't be a scholar. But who's the scholar? The one who implements his knowledge. It's done. Done. Jayyid. This is the same one that was talking, that was speaking against, or whatever it may be, regarding his gathering of a hadith, or him being a scholar of hadith. Again, all of it in context is about the implementation of knowledge. If you say Sufyan by itself, if you say the name Sufyan, and you call it Sufyan, who's it referring to? Because there's two main, or two big Sufyans. Sufyan al-Thawri. Who said that? If you say Sufyan by itself, Sufyan, it's usually talking about Sufyan al-Thawri. Otherwise, you would have Sufyan ibn Uyayna, and both of them are two great ulama of the Salaf, specializing in hadith. Continue.
Number 135. Ubaydullah bin Musa reported to us saying, Sufyan al-Thawri said, I wish that I hadn't sought the hadith and that my hand were cut off from here, that is from the wrist. So rather from here, and he pointed to his lower shoulder. Then he pointed to his upper shoulder and said, no, rather from here.
Again, out of humility, not because seeking the knowledge of hadith is bad. This is the most prestigious knowledge a person can seek after the Quran, to learn the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and its implementation. How much energy do you guys have? You have another half an hour? Not much? You have another half an hour? You don't have half an hour. Who's got half an hour? Put your hand up. Don't be shy. No problem, inshallah. If you have another half an hour, put it up. All the way. You have half an hour. I'll try and make it 15 minutes. يلا بسم الله خلاص استمر. If it's going to take longer, don't worry. I'll stop inshallah.
136. Ishaq bin Ibrahim narrated to us. Hajjaj bin Muhammad narrated to us saying, Sufyan al-Thawri said, rahimahullah, the people are content with just hearing the hadith while they have abandoned acting on it.
Okay. Again, these meanings are understood.
Number 137. I heard Sufyan say,
This one is similar to what we said, and again you can apply it and maybe put it on your status for the brothers that put a million ahadith and da'wah videos on their statuses, but then implement it. Jayyid, don't be that person. Send things out, no problem, but make sure you implement it. Continue.
Number 137. I heard Sufyan rahimahullah say, first act upon what you know, then come to me and I will narrate hadith to you. He also said, I heard Sufyan say, they dirty their clothes, then say, come wash them for us.
No. And again, this is in context, you understand the previous statements. When they said, don't seek the knowledge of hadith, or don't be a person of hadith, or this person, he's amazing except that he's a person of hadith, this is what they're referring to. They go and they don't implement. Go implement what you learn and then come back to me and I'll tell you more. Otherwise, again, you create it, if the foundation is buckled, and it's on an angle, when you build the building, it's also going to be on an angle, and that's not the point of alim. And that's not the point of the alim. The alim is the murabbi. The alim is a person who's meant to keep his students in line. So he will tell them, no, I'm not going to teach you. Maybe one day, I won't say his name. One of the mashayikh here in Sydney, who was studying with a mashayikh overseas. And it was a private lesson. And I think they just started, I don't even know if they started it yet. Like the series was going on, but that particular lesson, he sat down, and I can't remember if he had opened his book, or I can't remember because I wasn't there. He told me. He asked a particular question to the sheikh. The sheikh said, close your book, go home. Close your book and go home. There's tarbiyah. Why are you asking that question? That question doesn't concern you now. It wasn't one that had a lot of benefit. It was about a particular scholar. Why did they say this about a particular scholar? He didn't want him to concern himself in that. Your job, Habibi, is to learn. Don't worry about what they say. This is just like people, they talk at the back of a coffee shop. Did you hear what happened about this sheikh? Did you hear about this sheikh? That's for the layman, not for you as a student of knowledge. Your job as a student of knowledge is to learn. When you learn, don't worry, you get to those stages. Don't worry about that. But now, if I tell you why, are you going to understand it's going to change anything? Is it going to make your iman stronger, make your ibadah stronger? Is it going to save you from fitna? It's not going to do anything. So what do we need to get into it now? There's no point. Khalas. He wanted to teach him a lesson. Don't ask things that don't concern you. Close the book, go home. And he didn't do that lesson that day. Now, again, there's tarbiyah in that. And that brother will still mention that story until now. He will still mention that story until now. So the ulama, part of the job of the ulama is to rabbi the student. To nurture him so that he becomes a scholar of such, inshallah. Not just in the theory that he gives, but in the character that he has. In the character that he has. You hear a lot of statements of the ulama, a lot of statements. That there'll be thousands sometimes in their lesson. The majority of them, they come to actually listen and take the knowledge. Others will come, not just take the knowledge, but to learn from the character of the sheikh. From the character of him. And these are the ones that end up making a big difference. Continue.
Number 138. Yahya bin Sa'id rahimahullah said, I do not fear anything for Sufyan in the hereafter except for his love for hadith.
No. Again, this is talking about not being a person that just gathers. Don't just be a person that gathers. Rather be a person that gathers and implements. Continue.
Number 139. I heard Ibn Auf say, I wish that I would come out from it with just enough. That is from knowledge.
Continue.
Abu Abu Qahtan said, Abu Qahtan,
Qatam.
Abu Qahtan said, Shu'bah said, I am not established upon anything that I fear will cause me to enter the hellfire other than this, that is the hadith.
Again, understanding in context. Jayyid. He doesn't, alhamdulillah, he doesn't have major sins like zina, drinking alcohol, etc. But his fee is, has he made sure that he implements what he learns. Again, just so we understand context as well. When we say what we learn, we're not talking about, wallah, he studied Iqtidaa-ul Ilm al Amal every Tuesday night, once a week, and that was the lesson that he had his whole life. We're talking about scholars that spent 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 hours a day plus studying narrations and knowledge. Going from in gatherings like masajid, not like now you have, in every 10 masajid you have one little lesson going on. They'll go to major masajid and it's like a university. They'll have pillars, and in every pillar, there's a halaq of ilm. Every pillar, there's a halaq of ilm. They'll go from aqidah to fiqh to tafsir, etc. Like these were ulama that put in effort. One of the historians, he says, it's a sad sight when I went to Masjid al-Aqsa and I only seen 500 circles of knowledge. It was a sad sight, It was upsetting that there was only 500, ya haram, masakin, only 500 circles of knowledge in Al-Aqsa. Imagine now, Allah is three, Allah Musta'an. That's just in Masjid al-Aqsa. Everywhere else. In Masjid al-Aqsa, 3 is good. 3 is good. Other masajid.
3 big ones.
Like not 500 people attending. 500 halaqat of ilm. Allah Musta'an. Wallah, this ummah needs CPR when it comes to knowledge. Continue. This is your job. This is part of it, is your job. It's for you to be motivated, for you to know the reality. For you to know the reality of what's needed and to learn. Absolute bare minimum is for you and your family. That's absolute bare minimum. But don't limit it to that. If a person has bigger aspirations, go overseas, study. Don't hold back. Take what you can from here. But then also have aspirations to go overseas and study, because whether it's you're a Quran teacher, you're a Hadeeth teacher, you're a fiqh teacher, whether you get into Islamic finance, doesn't matter what it is. It's going to be benefit in you and assisting the ummah, because believe me, it's needed. We'll stop here so we're not too slack. And we'll continue next week, inshallah azza wa jal. But it's just important. The reason I wanted to try and finish the chapter today is so that we understand it, again, all of it in context. But bidnillah, we will stop here and continue next week. And inshallah, the context is already understood. هذا والله أعلم صلى الله عليه وسلم محمد وعلى آله محمد وصحبه أجمعين.